right, well, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah khairan everybody for attending. Inshallah, this is going to be a different type of lecture, or lecture series of lectures, inshallah, because we're going to be discussing something very sensitive to all of us. And nobody's excluded. Nobody can say, I don't need this class, not even if you had the ilm, even if you were a scholar. We all need a moment for tazkiya. We all need a moment to learn about our hearts and to learn about the details of our own nafs. And which is why we chose the topic of healing hearts. Healing hearts, another word for it is tazkiya. But of course, why is that topic important? Because in the world we live in, and throughout history, all the prophets were actually sent in order to bring about tazkiya. But what is tazkiya? And especially in the time that we're living in, the confusion is a lot more than before. In the age that we're living in, there is no belief, or at least the propaganda is trying to infiltrate the minds of all the populace that there is no truth and there is no standard, that life is just to live it as you feel and just enjoy every single moment as you want to live it. And that's the age of postmodernism. Materialism is right now being sold as if it is the scientific fact. When I say materialism, the focus on your own body, it's being sold in schools, on TV, the media, as your body is just your life it's just about the focus on your own body and how you feel about it, and just enjoy it for the sake of enjoyment. In the age that we're living in, it's called the age of postmodernism. Now, you might say, what does tazkiya have to do with this? Well, the reason why I'm talking about tazkiya, and especially in the age of postmodernism, because you will not understand how to do the tazkiya if you don't know the environment that you're living in. The environment that you're living in actually tells you what vaccinations you have to take, right? The vaccinations that you have to take is all dependent on what is right now, what is right now the most common disease that is being spread. What do I have to be immune to? What do I have to work on in order not to fall within this illness? And that's what tazkiya is. Tazkiya, at one point in history, they used to teach it in one certain way because of the era, and we're going to talk about this, because of the different challenges that they used to face during their time. During our time, it's a different challenge. Because during our time, like never before in history, during our time, life is about not intellect and not truth or finding truth, but the era that we're living in is about making up or some framing truth. And this is unprecedented. Never before in history was it about making up truth or designing your own understanding of truth. This is the era that we're living in today. And this is not me saying, this is even the heads of the departments of philosophy. This is not me as a Muslim inventing it. No, this is even the heads of departments. It's the era of postmodernism. Right now we're living in an era where there's even a confusion in the apparent understanding and the meanings behind them. For example, he's clearly male, but he's wondering whether his gender is male or female. What does it mean? If the person is clearly male, meaning they have biological features of male, that would actually mean their role within the society, what they really are, is male. But in our era, even though this is so apparent on their biological feature, it's telling me that he's a male. But in our era, even what is apparent is not. It's your own understanding. This is the era. It's a confusion in the simplest identity of who you are and what you are created in. In the simplest identity of your own creation, it's actually lost. You go to the clinic right now and you actually will have what is the pronoun that you prefer using. He, she, them, or it, or I, or what is the pronoun that you want. What is your gender? Male, female, undecided. This is right now what you see. Without you realizing, you don't want to offend. Without you realizing, you're becoming part of this whole era that is transforming your own understanding of your own self, your own identity. What do you define your own self? You as a human, what are you? Where are you heading? All that becomes just one example of the era of confusion that we're living in. When did the confusion start? That's a different story. But the fact is, if you want to do tazkiya, if you want to do the spiritual elevation, you want to heal the heart from what? Right? Heal the heart from what? What am I trying to preserve my heart in? What am I healing it from? The most important thing is the confusion in your own identity. That's number one. You look at, for example, the confusion not just in the apparent, but even in defining values around us. Modesty is right now seen not as a moral thing, but as immoral, and calling it oppression. Now what happens is that the person that is living in this, without them realizing this will be the issue that is affecting their own understanding of their own values, or their own understanding of what am I supposed to be living in? What really am I? And then they go into this mood of lacking confidence in their own selves. We're living in an era of a world of oxymoron. The confusion, the contradiction is actually left and right. You actually are being taught this kind of oxymoron as if it was scientific, as if it was moral, as if it was trying to give you a better understanding in life, without you realizing it's actually setting the grounds for more confusion. It's actually setting the grounds for the human to live as an animal. We're going to talk about that down in just a bit. Tazkiya, the era that we're living in, tazkiya is about cleansing. Cleansing from what? From you losing your understanding of your own human identity. Tazkiya is about taking you back to your fitrah. What is the fitrah? Fitrah is the pure creation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you in. Regardless of your faith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created man with a pure creation, with being good. It isn't until the environment around them reshapes their understanding or reshapes their fitrah. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, كُلُّ مَوْلُودٍ يُولَدُ عَلَى الْفِطْرَةِ. Every person is born with a pure innate creation. Yet, فَأَبَوَاهُ, his father, his mother, and the environment around him are the ones that start pressuring them to change their understanding of the world around them, or at least the fitrah. Now, if you don't know who you are, what you are, which is what we're living in today, you're male but you're female, you're human yet you're supposed to be taking your values from the animals, without us realizing, right now many of the values around us are actually defined based on how seahorses live. Right? You guys know what I'm talking about. how seahorses live and what they do, and how monkeys how monkeys live their life. So man right now is actually defining his role within the society, not based on what is human, but based on what is animal. What does animal do? And this is the era that we're living in. Now, with tazkiya, if you don't know who and what you are, do you really know where you're going in life? Met. Do you really know where?
Mama,
ايش لهيدا؟ ايش لهيدا؟ يلا روح العب. Now, what is tazkiya about? Number one. Okay, بعدين. Number one, it's helping man reduce the gravity of his body and materialistic things around him to elevate his connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's tazkiyah. So tazkiyah is about not taking you back to the understanding of animal life in order to help you understand yourself, but is actually elevating your understanding of who you are and what you are and how you deal with the world around you. And a very important thing, Professor Jonathan Leons, in his book, it's called House of Wisdom, he wrote something very beautiful. Although I don't agree with everything in that book, but one very important thing he said, I'll just give you the theme of the book. When he talked about how Muslims translated the different works of the different civilizations about the world and about knowledge and all that, he said what led Muslims to starting and bringing about those golden eras of wisdom and the golden era of knowledge and science was really their own faith. Why their own faith? Because their own faith is always connecting them with the world around them. Their own faith is always connecting them with how they understand and how they see the world around them, meaning that when you pray, you have to understand where you are in this whole world. You're supposed to head to a certain point. And that point that you're supposed to head to is the Kaaba. And at the same time, when you're looking at the time of the prayer, you're looking at the sun. In other words, the Muslim is putting himself between the axis of time and place. There's no way that you can understand who you are and where you're going unless you actually know.
Mama, yalla.
هذا مات يا ماما مات.
قديش هذا مات؟
مات.
ماما قديش مات؟
مات. روح العب محل تاني، روح العب بالعربية محل تاني.
لا قديش هذا مات؟
اختك عسامي؟ يلا روح العب غير.
لا
يلا.
قديش هذا إلا بدي احضر.
طيب خد.
هيو احضر.
هيو احضر. هي استنى. He won. خد. انت حط لحالك، اوكي؟ يلا روح غادة ولا باخده منك هلا، روح غادة ولا باخده منك. يلا روح عز الدين، روح يلا روح غادة، روح برا يلا، اطلع برا يلا، روح يلا روح ولا باخده منك، روح يلا امشي طير. Where was I? Sorry you guys. Right. With Jonathan Leons. In order to understand where you are in this whole creation, you have to understand and relate yourself. Where am I in the axis of time and place? Now when you say axis of time and place, remember all of our time and place. That's why when we look at the ayat, for example, it's talking about whoever goes into the هدى لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. Why is لا خوف عليهم? When do you actually go into fear? You go into fear when you don't know where you're heading. When you don't know where you're heading, you go into fear. And when do you go into sadness and sorrow? Because of the past or because of the future. So Islam is about helping you, where's the board? Islam is about helping you between the two axes, the axis of time and place. Or time, place and time. That's why لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون actually comes with hidayah. It actually comes with hidayah. In order to get the happiness, you have to understand where you're going in life and where are you in the axis of time. And of course, that is the akhirah. Time. Is it just the time that I'm living in right now? Or is there, where am I going? Where am I heading in terms of time? What next? Now, that's why when we're talking about tazkiya, it's helping us understand how to reduce the gravity that we as humans, that's pulling us towards this dunya. Now remember, as humans, there's also that gravity that's pulling us on earth. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is elevating man to actually becoming a bashar, a human. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that about those that are in hum kal an'ami bal hum adal, that they are like the animals, kal an'am, the animals that we actually eat, bal hum adal, but in fact they're actually even more led astray. They're even farther astray than the animals because they've got the intellect, yet they didn't realize how to use the intellect. Now, as humans, we've got our body that is pulling us towards wanting certain things, wants more and more and more of it. And the materialistic things around us is pulling us towards a single angle. Now, as humans, we're going to talk about this. We actually have more than just the body. We've got different parts. Now, in order to elevate man, we have to understand elevating what we have to understand the different components of the human. The different components of our own selves. We've got the component of mankind. One, the component of the body, the component of the body, the component of mind, and the component of spirit. Now, those are the different components which we are going to discuss in just a bit. The component of body is pulling you towards life. The component of body we share with animals. The component of mind, no creature shares with us. Component of mind, no creature shares with us, and that is intellect. Component of mind is the main manati taklif, the reason why you are held accountable. You're held accountable because you have the mind. You're held accountable because you've got the intellect. What's the evidence? وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً قالوا أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء ونحن نسبح بحمدك ونقدس لك قال إني أعلم ما لا تعلمون وعلم آدم الأسماء كلها ثم عرضهم على الملائكة فقال أنبئوني بأسماء هؤلاء إن كنتم صادقين قالوا سبحانك لا علم لنا قالوا سبحانك لا علم لنا. What is that? Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala إذ قال ربك للملائكة إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the malaika, I'm going to make a khalifa. Let me put the word khalifa right here. إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة. Yet what was their response? أتجعل فيها. Are you going to create a creature من يفسد فيها, who's going to cause destruction in this world, ويسفك الدماء, وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاء cause bloodshed. And that tells us it wasn't the jinn, because jinn don't have bloodshed. Jinn don't even have blood. وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاء وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ. نَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ. It's referring to spirituality, عبودية, servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ وَنُقَدِّسُ لَكَ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them, I know what you don't know, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ilm is beyond all. So what happened? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala علم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Adam the intellect. علم آدم الأسماء كلها. Al-asma is not necessarily the names of things, apple, tray, juice, etc. No. علم gave him the intellect and taught him the intellect with it. Taught him how to use it. Taught him that he actually, what he has, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed him, this is what you have. علم آدم الأسماء كلها ثم عرضهم على الملائكة. Then he told the malaika, define these things for me. قالوا سبحانك لا علم لنا. They said, Subhanak. Glory unto you. We don't know. إلا ما علمتنا. Now here, what did they say? لا علم. What is علم? علم is mind. It's intellect. علم is mind, علم is intellect. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was here proving to the malaika, you don't have the intellect. Now the other thing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave man, which is free will. Malaika don't have free will. Within the context of this, you can see malaika don't have free will, but man has the free will, which are the two things for manat al-taklif. For taklif, the two main factors, the two main components for anybody held accountable is, do they have the intellect? Are they aqil, baligh? Have they reached the age of puberty? And aware of what they're doing? Two, were they under any kind of ikrah or any kind of compulsion, or were they any kind of force? Free will. Once free will and intellect are not there, that person is not held accountable. That person won't be held accountable unless they have these two parts. Now, the spirit, الروح, it's the secret that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created. يسألونك عن الروح قل الروح من أمر ربي وما أوتيتم من العلم إلا قليلا. They ask you about the ruh. You only have little information about the ruh. The information that we know is that, well, we know very well when there is no ruh, there's something that's keeping that body alive. It's gone. It's not there. When the electricity is out, did you ever taste electricity? Did you ever feel it? Did you ever touch it? No. How do you know the electricity is out? Because of the effect. Right? You know the electricity is out because of the effect. But what tests electricity? What tests electricity are certain tools. Right? You guys took it in physics. Right? Now that's the same thing. With ruh, how do I know that person is dead or not? Do we necessarily have a tool? Can we put it under some kind of an MRI and see if the ruh is there or not? No. But we know that the ruh is not there because it's not bringing me energy. It's not bringing in the movement. We know that the body is dead. That's all we know about the ruh. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that ruh is just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, نَفَخْنَا فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِنَا. It's a secret from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a blow from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's something from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not that you become a God, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you some things with that ruh that keeps you alive. With this that keeps you alive, how do you maintain life? You focus on your ruh. Your body has certain needs, just as animals. We're going to see that in just a bit. Your body has certain needs, just as animals. You look around, for example, animal, no intellect, lives eating and drinking and survival, the survival of life, that's all, reproduction. Human, has the intellect, has the free will. Survival is based on eating, drinking, and reproduction. Angels don't have the intellect, no free will, no struggle for survival, no eating, no reproduction. Question: why do you fast Ramadan? Why do you fast Ramadan? To feel with the poor. Raise your hand if you say yes. Nobody says to feel with the poor. Why do you fast Ramadan? Anybody, just tell me, why do you fast Ramadan? From just looking at this map, trying to... Angels don't... That's my son. Why do you fast Ramadan? Go ahead. Why do you fast Ramadan? Looking at this map. What was that? To build taqwa. All right. Looking at this map. I want you to look at this map right here. And by looking at the map, tell me how Ramadan and fasting fall within here.
Because our intellect tells us that our order has to fast.
All right.
For the survival part, for us, the part that we share with animals,
Okay.
we've sacrificed that to show us that we can like be without it and we can like sacrifice it for them.
Okay.
We have the free will to fast.
We have the free will to fast. Oh, Sally.
If you forbid yourself from doing the halal during Ramadan, like eating and drinking and whatnot, then it's easier to abstain from the haram outside Ramadan.
All right. Who else wanted to give another answer? Go ahead.
We're depending on eating and drinking. We depend on it.
We depend on eating and drinking. Fatuma. To teach us sabr. All right. Well, here's one thing. I want you guys to look at the map. We always learned that we fast in order to feel with the poor, right? Well, look at the map. We abstain from eating and drinking and also intimacy, right? Well, if abstaining from eating and drinking is to feel with the poor, are we trying to feel with the people that are single? Of course not. Right? Trying to get a sense of what they're feeling, ya haram? Well, apparently not. If you look at the map, we share with the animals the eating, drinking, and reproduction. That's what we share with animals. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to elevate man from the animal level to the angel level. Look at this, you guys. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to elevate man because if you look at Ramadan, what is it about? Abstaining from eating, drinking, and reproduction. Right? Well, if you look down at this right here, animals eat and drink and reproduce. Angels do not. If you look at Ramadan is about abstaining from these three parts, right? Ramadan is a form of tazkiya to elevate you from being at the animal level to taking the manners of the malaika. To taking the manners of the malaika. When you take the manners of the malaika, what manner are you learning? You're learning to not let your body be the one to control you, but your ruh, to elevate you to be like the malaika. Like the malaika meaning what? Near Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like the malaika, like in what? When you're near Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you are close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you are with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's the only way that you actually can live in that level of spirituality. You take down that animal level, you suppress that animal level, and you let the malaika, the ruh level, the malaika, let me call it the malaika khuluq, be your khuluq. The malaika khuluq to be your khuluq. And that's why when we look at the angels, for example, no intellect and no free will, and you look at the human part, intellect and free will, etc. When the Prophet ﷺ considers, when the Prophet ﷺ in one of the hadith would actually talk about that, the mu'min is even closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or even the malaika yusabbihun, that the malaika would even do tasbih for the mu'min. Even the malaika would do istighfar for the mu'min. Why? Look at you guys. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the malaika to do sujood for Adam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the malaika to do sujood for Adam. But why do sujood for Adam? Who's better? Look at that, you guys. Who's better? Angels are better. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ordering the malaika to do sujood. Because when you have free will, yet you let your free will submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're at a higher level than giving you the order. When I take away the free will, right? Well, that's what challenge is about. If I were to give everybody the answer for a test, it's not a test anymore. But the challenge, and the reason why we have people in different stages, on different stages of whether it's richness or education, etc., is because we're not at the same level of intelligence, we're not at the same level of struggles, and the list goes on and on. Right? Now, that's why when we look at when a person reaches the level of tazkiya, a far level of tazkiya, that's why we look at it that you're looking at 3 parts and 3 stages. 3 parts and 3 stages: Al-Islam, Al-Iman, and Al-Ihsan. What does that mean? Before I go into these 3 stages, it's very important to define certain terms when we talk about tazkiyah. Number 1, the gravity of our body towards dunya. The gravity of our body is the animal part of us. The gravity part of our own body, what our body is pushing us to do, is the animal part of us. It's always afraid that it will not survive. It's always looking for survival. It's always trying to make a better survival. Now, on the other side, we look at that, and that makes it the nafs. In nafs, people vary in their nafs. Some people, their nafs is more of nafs lawama. You tell them this is what they just don't know how to control their nafs. What is controlling the nafs? Controlling the nafs means you controlling your inner desire. For it to follow the right path and for it to follow what must be done. Now, once the person lets the nafs control them, that is when they are considered that they have actually lived to being as animals. Because what's an animal? What control? Why does a lion attack a beautiful, beautiful deer? For eating. Because what controls them is their nafs, not the moral. Right? It's not the moral that's controlling them, it's the nafs. It's their desire. All right? It's for survival, etc. But in the end, it's not the moral that's controlling them, it's the desire. When the desire acts as the controlling component in you, you become like an animal. Right? When that desire within you acts as the one to create values. You guys pay attention to this. This is very important because this is the era that we're living in. What is deciding the standard around us now? It's not the value that's deciding what's right and what's wrong. It's people's desires. That's where lobbying comes in. Lobbying comes in where it decides and manufactures truth, manufactures how we live, and manufactures morals, and manufactures values and standards and whatever have you. This is the era that we're living in. Not that the values would say, no, this is illegal, but we would look at what people's desires are pressuring. And that's what's imposing values right now. Now, That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent guidance. Ruh. Ruh has two or has several meanings. Ruh can be Jibreel alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the Ruh, Jibreel alayhi salam, in order to help man find the terms that they live in this world. Find the terms, خلاص. In order for them to find the terms that regulate their understanding of life. In order for man to find the terms that regulates their purpose of life and how they head to it. Now, when we look at Ruh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had actually talked about the Ruh. And also sometimes the Ruh is referred to Nafs. Now you look at the Ruh, وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا تَلَاهَا اطلع برا انت والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والسماء وما بناها. Continue guys. ونفس وما سواها. That's the whole key. ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها. That the nafs Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created has within it نفس وما سواها ألهمها فجورها وتقواها. Had given it ألهمها. الإلهام is a more of part of what the Ruh does. الإلهام, it's what you feel. فجورها, the evil part of it, and تقواها, and its piety. Now, within that, remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فأما من خاف مقام ربه ونهى النفس عن الهوى. Keep going. Come on, you guys. وين الصومالية? They're the most حافظ here. Come on. ونهى النفس عن الهوى فإن الجنة هي المأوى. يا سلام. Whoever fears the position of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أما من خاف مقام ربه ونهى النفس عن الهوى, and forbid the nafs from letting it control them. فإن الجنة هي المأوى. Then Jannah is their place, is their reward. Now when we look at الهوى, it's desire. When we look at النفس,
That's mine.
عز الدين خدوا برا واطلع انت وياه برا. خدوا برا واطلع انت وياه برا. الحقوا طيروا. ونهى النفس عن الهوى. النفس is the desire. How do you control it? How do you control your nafs? Control it into what? That's what we're going to talk about in just a bit. الإسلام, الإيمان, الإحسان. Let me pause right here. If we look at the nafs, can it be the GPS that controls us where we go? No, it can't be. This is, you guys, this is the total opposite. Just this sentence is that the nafs cannot be the GPS that decides our right and wrong, is the total opposite of what postmodernism teaches. How many people know what postmodernism means? What is postmodernism? Sally.
It's like when you remove. It's like when you decide that you are your own moral compass and you get to decide according to your desires, like right from wrong, and God is like completely removed from the equation.
So is postmodernism an era, or is postmodernism?
It's an ideology.
It's an ideology.
It's become like the prevalent way of like what's like acceptable and allowed. Like it's what's correct, and I'm saying that with air quotes, like nowadays. It's
Right.
what's accepted
Okay.
nowadays in like Western society.
Western society.
As, like, correct-
When did postmodernism start?
That's a great question.
Yesterday? Go ahead. When secularism started? When did postmodernism start? This is very important because postmodernism is the philosophy that you guys are learning in school. They don't tell you it's postmodernism, but it's the philosophy that you're being fed. When I say philosophy, it doesn't mean some kind of a, a guy with a, I don't know, shabby hair and wearing glasses with a big beard. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the culture that you're living in, that you are being told it's the truth. It's the respectful way. It's what has been scientifically proven. This is the culture that today it is presented to you as it's what's being American, or what's being Western, or what's being smart. It's today's culture. But because spirituality and tazkiya is supposed to be about giving you that, let me call it the vaccination, in the era when there's a certain disease that is spread, it's becoming epidemic. Let me explain postmodernism first before we move on, because if you don't know what the diseases are, you're not going to know what vaccination you're taking. All right? Let me tell you the symptoms of postmodernism. Some symptoms, just around you. You're being too judgmental. Who told you that you should be the person to tell me what's right and what's wrong? You're just being too judgmental. You're being too offensive by actually telling me that marriage is a relationship between male and female. You're being too offensive. You're spreading hate. Let's move on. A sister took off her hijab. I love you the way you are, regardless of what you do. Another sister, she decided to be lesbian. We still love you, no matter what. These are some of the symptoms. We live in that culture, and we just think, well, it's trying to be respectful. It's trying to embrace others' way of life. Well, we're all the same, regardless of any religion. Religion is about your own perspective. How many people heard these words and these rhetorics around? How many people hear this kind of rhetoric and this kind of discourse all around? This is just a symptom of postmodernism. This is just an idea. Let me flip my little board right here, and before we talk about the healing, we have to talk about the disease. All right? Let's talk about the disease of postmodernism that we're living in today. In order to talk about the disease of postmodernism, we still have to talk about, well, what is this? So we see this all around. Once upon a time, long, long, long ago, the West was living under the Christian grip. The Christian grip was very strong, to the point that you were not allowed to even say that the earth is rotating or even rotating around the sun. Well, during that era, the Christian church was the one to define knowledge, to define God, to define sin, and even to define who you are. Any part of any single or any way of trying to think outside of the box, you will be executed. Well, not even just an execution, but you will be going into something like the Spanish Inquisition, where you will be tortured in the worst way. You will be labeled as a heretic. Well, that era was actually called the theocentric. The theocentric era. The theocentric era was the era with the Christian grip. Theos means God, and centric means it's the center. It's defining everything for us. Well, a guy named Martin Luther, well, it wasn't just Martin Luther, but it was a number of guys. They actually wanted to go against this Christian grip and decided, well, why do we need the church to even tell us what the Bible is saying? Let's translate the Bible and actually have our own interpretation. Now that began, not Martin Luther King Jr., the African-American guy. This is a different kind of a Martin Luther. Well, he wanted to bring about a new understanding of religion. Let's bring about where we can interpret it. So that started with people starting to actually lobby. With that lobbying, we don't want that church to control how we see everything. So they made some political alliances. Those people with those thoughts made political alliances, and the political alliances managed to suppress the church from taking the lead and control. And that took them to another era, and that is homocentric. That homocentric would actually mean it's man that defines right and wrong, and not necessarily the church. Well, with the homocentric came a new age where a guy named Friedrich Nietzsche comes up and, well, let's start studying man from a different angle. And guess what? If the church at one point was defining right and wrong for us, remember the church, if the church and religion was defining right and wrong for us, why can't man be the center to define right and wrong? And that became the homocentric. Homo means human, centric means the center. That goes on. Well, Friedrich Nietzsche doesn't end there, but he said, God died in the lives of man, therefore you do not need to worry about God. Let us all just define our own way. Now, that was in the 1900s. Now let us all define our own way. Well, guess what? This actually brings in the new age, which with this, they called it modernism. Well, the age of modernism, you guys pay attention, because this means your life and the culture that you're living in. The age of modernism, yet they still had some history and some Christian culture, Judeo-Christian culture in the background. It was still there. That was still they didn't go around it, or still didn't leave those values yet, at least not totally. The Christian culture was still there, but they wanted to focus on intellect. And let's let man decide reason. And the morals, yes, let's just go back to at least some Christian morals and Jewish morals. At least it was still there. Well, until a new... Now, you want to know that became the lobby. عز الدين اطلع انت واخوك برا. Now that became that new. No, they can't. They're going to be a big hassle. So kick them out. عز الدين اطلع انت واخوك برا. Now that became the lobby that is changing people's perceptions about life and people's perception about right and wrong. In this era, it was the human. But now, with the new atheist understanding, well, if the person or the lobbies that are right now pushing forward different things, if it's an atheist, meaning there is no truth. Because atheism regards there is no truth, everything is a myth. Therefore, there is no truth, meaning there is no standard. There is no moral to depend on. There is no reference to head to. Everything is nonsense. Everything around us is nonsense. برا. لا. سيبه واطلع برا. سيبه. If you say there is no truth, that becomes the age of postmodernism. The age of postmodernism is, well, if you say there is no truth, if you say there is no reason, if you say that there is no purpose to life, then therefore there is no moral to head to. It's all about desire. It's all about people deciding what they want. It's all about lobbying. And it's all about framing what is truth. We can just shape our own understanding of truth. We can shape it, however, shaping truth. And we can reconstruct truth because there is no truth. Two, if there is no truth, you just reconstruct it. Well, how do we construct it? However we desire. It's all about desire. I feel this is right. You can't tell me I'm wrong because I feel it. You can't tell me this is, oh, and by the way, if you actually say that this is wrong, oh, you will be too offensive. You must not do such a thing. Because that's offensive. Because remember, there is no truth. Therefore, you cannot tell me it's wrong. That's the culture that's making you, that's reconstructing right now our understanding, and then we say, oh, it's desire, emotions, and it's, well, there is no truth, so that's her own reconstruction of truth. And if that man decides to marry a man, well, it's all about love. Not if this is wrong or right. Oh, you're being too offensive. Now, this is the age of postmodernism. If you look at desire, reconstructing truth, and of course, which is right now, it's the era of post-truth that we're living in because there is no truth, and it's about emotions. If you look at tazkiya, look at this, you guys. If you look at tazkiya, it's this. Why did I get here? Tazkiya is about finding truth, finding guidance in Islam. And it's about living guidance and not letting your desire be what controls. And it's about embracing guidance, not letting your emotions reconstruct truth. Are you guys understanding where we're going here? Now that's why there is no way you can gain tazkiya if you don't know where you're heading in guidance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you guidance. And when you move on with your life, it's about living the guidance, which is al-hidayah. And moving on, it's about gaining al-ihsan. That takes me to a very important hadith. Umar ibn al-Khattab, the Prophet ﷺ was sitting down. The Prophet ﷺ was sitting,